Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, so we are back after a short break. I wasn't here last week. I was away in Bulgaria. What a fantastic trip I had there. Beautiful city of Ruse, I think is how you pronounce it. Apologies if I pronounce it wrong. Right on the Danube River. Absolutely beautiful city. Absolutely fantastic Kendo seminar. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful place. Wonderful people. And everybody did brilliant at the seminar. So if you were attending that seminar, thank you very much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a lot. But here we are back for Kendo Rant. We've got loads of questions for you today. We're going to jump to them in just a moment. We've got a lot to get through, so it's going to be quick fire. But before we get to that, don't forget the YouTube magic, like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment down there. You can help us get to around 3,564 people probably start Kendo because of your actions on YouTube. If you go down there, you write in the comment section, wow, what a great Kendo video. Use the words Kendo in there. Then the YouTube robots, they just might suggest this channel or similar channels to somebody who's about to start Kendo. And then thanks to your efforts, a new person has started their Kendo journey and we have grown the Kendo population. We've already had more than 3,000 at least. I think it's like 3,028 or could be more. Probably start Kendo just from those actions. All right, so let's get it to over 3,500. 3,568 is the target. Go and type a comment. What a great Kendo video. Or words to that effect. And before we jump in, most importantly, support the channel by shopping at KendoStar.com. KendoStar is the best Kendo equipment website in the history of the human race, in the universe, in the galaxy, the Milky Way, the stratosphere, everything. It's the best. Now, of course, I would say that because I own the place. So, of course, I'm going to say that. But everybody agrees with me, right? If you go on and look at our Trustpilot rating, which is independent, by the way, you can only review on there if you've actually shopped with us. It doesn't let you do it if you haven't. Then you'll see we're actually one of the best rated Trustpilot websites on Trustpilot of all e-commerce, not just in Kendo. All right. So you're going to shop with us anyway. Skip messing around with the other ones. You'll end up disappointed and come to us in the end anyway. So don't buy twice. Just buy once at the right place at KendoStar.com. Right. Okay. It's time for the questions. Let's go. Okay. All new sub here. Hello. Welcome to the channel. Thinking of starting my Kendo journey. See, I told you guys. You write something in there. Some wonderful person like this finds it and goes, wow, I think I'll start Kendo. My only fear is that I'm too old. I'm 49 years. Any advice for a beginner like me? All the love from Sweden. Right. You're not too old. You are never too old to start Kendo. I know I know somebody that's teaching Kendo to people that are starting Kendo in their 80s. So you're not too old. All right. Are you going to go on to the elite level of competition and compete for your national team? It's probably a little bit more unlikely than it is for somebody younger. But does that mean that you shouldn't start or that it's too old to start? You're absolutely not too old to start. Get down to the dojo, go and check it out, see if you like it, all right? Go and check out the video I've done saying 5 things you need to know before starting Kendo so that you're well prepared before you go along. And go along with an open mind and I hope you have fun, all right? But I definitely would encourage you to do it. You're certainly not too old, okay? Right, next one. Thanks again for a great Kendo video. You're welcome. I have a question though. How do I train to have a faster men attack? My sensei said I have to swing up and down as one move, not 2 separate moves. I get that, but I always feel like that me swinging the shinai up is slower than bringing the shinai down. Yeah, that's kind of normal. What your sensei is talking about is swinging the shinai in the rhythm of ichibyoshi, all right? So instead of 1, 2, 1, 1, okay? it's hard and it takes a lot of practice. Unfortunately, there's no shortcut. But what I would say is, even though you're swinging the shinai up and down in a single movement as such, it's still an upswing and a downswing. And indeed, the upswing is slower than the downswing. That's normal, right? One's fighting against gravity, one's not for a start, okay? But one thing you can do, and one you should do, is you want to swing up and start your leap forward as you start to swing down, okay? Bam. And essentially, when you're doing the large men strikes, the speed of this upswing is less important as the swing of the downswing. What your sensei is saying isn't necessarily that the upswing and the downswing have to be the same speed. It's great if they can be, but it's not the end of the world if your upswing's a bit slower than your downswing, but your downswing has to be fast. All right? So yeah, it's going to come with practice though, unfortunately. It's not, I can't say, oh, just do this and it fixes it. Sorry about that. Next one, am I out of focus? There we go, I'm back in focus. Right, can't really tell. Hey Andy, first Q Kendoka here. I have one question. I'm really interested in Jodan no Kamae. Do you think it's okay to switch stance now or after I pass Shodan? Or maybe I should wait a little bit more? Right now I practice a lot of kata tsuburi and also I create a domi at home so I can practice kata de men. Thanks and advice and greetings from Serbia. Fantastic, I've been to Serbia. Okay. Okay. I'm giving you this advice. I can come back into focus. Keep going out of focus. I'm giving you this advice as sort of somebody via the internet, all right, having never seen your kendo. There are exceptions, all right, but, all right, I think Shodan is a little bit too early to start doing Jodan, okay, for most people, all right. I would wait until at least Nidan, probably even Sandan. But it depends on your kendo ability, all right? So I think practicing at home is no problem. Practicing your kata de men, kata tsuburi. And the biggest issue, right, with switching to Jodan too early is whether you can get over that hurdle of being able to make strikes that are, you know, fulfilling the criteria of you called Atotsu and have Kikentai no Ichi. It's hard enough from Chudan. It gets a lot harder from Jodan, which is why I have a bit of a concern over it and why my general advice would be that. However, there are exceptions to the rules, all right? There are exceptions. Some people are able to pick it up a lot faster, able to do it faster. So I'm not saying definite, but as a general rule, I'd say at least Nidan or Sandan. Sandan is better, to be honest. It's not, there's no, you know, and the other thing I'd say is I've never met a really good Jodan player that isn't also really good at Chudan. All of the really good Jodan players I've met, and I've met a couple, they're also really good at Chudan as well. So, you know, it's not bad to make sure you've got your Chudan solid, all right? And you'll do a better Jodan later, all right? Because I think if you want to do Jodan, you want to do it well, right? So it's one of those, you know. Hi Andy, I had a question regarding going out of bounds during tournaments where there's a strong tai-atari or shoves used to get the opponent out of bounds. In the case I have observed, the person getting pushed out would kind of position themselves in a way to hug their opponent to go out of bounds together if it was impossible to sidestep or dodge out of the way quick enough. It worked and no hansoku was awarded to either side. Most of this behaviour actually was seen in tournaments in Japan. Would this behaviour from the person being shoved be punished elsewhere or frowned upon? Thanks and have a good summer. P.S. I can't edit my question, my comment for some reason. I should mention that this hugging motion was facilitated by the kendoka getting pushed out doing nito, so it was easier to do. Okay, it's hard to comment on without seeing the specific scenario you're talking about. But, right? Hugging your opponent is hansoku, all right? Hugging your opponent is hansoku, right? Now, the thing is you'll probably see in Japan, it depends on the level of shiai as well. If it's like a kind of regional, local tournament, or even like a prefectural level tournament, your shimpan, like the level of shimpan in Japan is really, really different to how it is in, let's say, Europe, in different ways, right? So most shimpan in Japan are very, very good at recognizing the quality of Yuko Datotsu and awarding the strikes correctly. However, many of them who are sort of, let's say, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but sort of casual shimpan, in that they only do shimpan maybe once, twice, or maybe 3 times a year. They don't have an in-depth knowledge of all of the Kendo rules, of all of the rules in this book. Yeah, all of the rules in this book. They don't necessarily know them all. So some sort of less common hansoku can sometimes be missed. And this, for example, but hugging your opponent, putting your arms around your opponent is clearly stated as hansoku. So if someone stood on the line and then they tried to take the taiatari, and in response they put their arms around it, it's straight away the hansoku for the person who put their arms around, if that happened before they step out. If they step out and then do it, it's still a hansoku for stepping out. Okay? Only one hansoku happens, and it's based on which one happens first. But it is a penalty for putting your arms around the other person. All right, so don't do it. Next one. I'm not sure how to ask questions for Kendo RANT, so I'll post it here. Well, you're in the right place. I was watching the AUSKF team finals. There's a link, and noticed that at 3:33, the white takes 2 fists to the face and falls over. Is this not against the rules? I also noticed in the individual finals, one of the players attempted to punch the other in the face while they came for a men. Is this a new thing, as I can't recall seeing it with Japanese Kendo? Your thoughts and insight are appreciated. Thank you for the great videos. Right, let's have a look at that video, shall we? Okay, so here it is, 3:33. Let's have a look. Okay. I see what we're talking about here. Let's have another look. So what we're talking about here is this this push from below here. Okay. This particular, I would say this particular incident is kind of borderline. All right. In recent years, they've become strict. The rules, not the rules, but the application of the rules has become stricter on this sort of thing. Okay. There was quite a bad injury that happened at the European Championships a few years ago. That went back as far as the ZNKR. And there's, yeah, I mean, I think if you, it wouldn't be unusual for this, like an international level tournament, to receive a hansoku for rough play in this case. And if the other player was injured, as a result of this, then it would be a disqualification for the other player as well. So it's a risky move. Sometimes happens in Japanese Kendo, but not very often. It doesn't happen all that often, if I'm honest with you. You don't see that sort of thing all that much. It's not that unusual. It's not that it doesn't happen. It's not that unusual in, let's say, like maybe police tournaments. It could happen where it's all a bit rougher, and it's all a bit rougher around the edges at the police tournaments. But then they have different rules altogether. So so yeah, that sort of thing. As I say, in this case, obviously it wasn't deemed to be hansoku. It wasn't that bad. I've seen it much worse. But if you're, it could depend on the referees. There are referees that would interpret that as hansoku, no doubt about it, on the international circuit. All right. So it is definitely something that players need to be aware of, that sort of pushing from below this way can definitely result in the hansoku, and if you hurt the person, it results in disqualification as well. And it's very hard because when you're in the middle of the shiai and there's a lot riding on it, like that's a final of a big important tournament. Emotions run high, and your blood gets up, and I get it. but you have to be really, really careful. Stuff like that. I think they're getting more strict on as well. So anything like this, or like sometimes as well, you like pushing down from above with the hands. Sometimes you might find the arms, and especially if you're quite tall, tall players often end up with their hands after hitting maybe their hands over the top of the head of the partner. And if they bring the hands down this way and like pull them down to the floor, sometimes that happens. Then that's of course hand socker as well. Okay, next one. Hello, dear future Andy. Hope you're past Andy did well up to this point. Yeah. I always miss your gathering posts, so here's a question for the next round, whenever it may be. Okay. So how can I work to improve my semi and tame while training only with less experienced people? I train in a dojo that has only beginners, one ikkyu, and the rest are far below, except myself. The sensei and trainer is not in active training himself anymore. It's quite difficult for me to get feedback in my home dojo. Tried to train on seminars in the dojo when I have the chance, but I can't do that regularly. Sadly, to be honest, I train most often at time to ban men because I feel I profit from this most, but training with some Japanese 6th or 7th dan, their feedback to me is that I've to withstand semi more, empty my mind and play Kendo more with my partner together. I'm sure you know what I mean by that. So with the simple lack of people I can't train with on a regular basis, do you have any tips focus on while working with beginners? Thank you and have a nice day. So look, I understand what you're saying, and I think you're doing the right thing with the beginners. With the lower level people, the best thing you can do is, it sounds a bit bad, but like, you've got an opportunity to practice what you know works. So, you know, what you need to try and do with the lower level people is try to get them to hit you when you want them to hit you. So try to use your semi and your approach them to get them to strike, and then you can do Debano waza, Oju waza, different types of techniques, and of course you can practice Shikake waza as well. I think that's a good opportunity for you. It's not a nice way to put it, but it's a little bit like you know, like boxers train on punching bags and pads as well, right? So it's a similar thing in a way, you know what I mean? You kind of you're at an advantage because you've got the experience, so you can use it to train your techniques in a more realistic situation, but it's sort of on easy mode in a way. So that's that. The fact of the matter is, in order to improve, aside from that, you do need to have practice with peers. You need to have practice with people who are on a similar level to you, and with senseis as well. So you know, there is an element you're gonna need to do your best to get to seminars or whatever, so you can practice with senseis, and practice with the people who are at a similar level to yourself. So you can start to realize, you know, sort of apply your interactions and see how someone of the same level of you deals with that, and there you'll start to get an understanding of Tamir, because it's about having that willingness to strike whilst also being patient. So there's no perfect answer, unfortunately, but there is, you know, even if it's on a rare occasion, you are going to need that in order to kind of develop that, I think, if that makes sense. Good morning, Sensei. I have a question in regards to kids' shinai sizes. I have a 4 to 5 year old daughter. Which shinai should I get her? 20? I don't think there is a 20. I aim to have kids class running in this autumn. 39 is too long and heavy for most kids, but what would be an ideal one size fits for most size of shinai? Okay, so for your 4-year-old daughter, obviously 4 years old is a little bit early to be starting Kendo in most cases, so generally they don't make shinai that small for the most part, other than sort of toy ones. The smallest size they generally sell is a 28, which would be fine for her, but the problem is, you know, my daughter had a 28 size shinai, which I think is probably appropriate for like a 5-year-old, but she actually didn't start Kendo till she was 7, so by the time she started Kendo, the 28 was too small for her, and she started with a 32, I think. I think she started with a 30, but like, you know, like she had a bit of a growth spurt, so she only used the 30 for like 3 months or something, and then I had to get her another one. You know, when they're at that age, you end up getting the big ones in rapid succession. And in Japan, it's easy to do that. It's harder to do that abroad. But yeah, the right size for her right now is 28, but be ready to replace it with a bigger one. I'd probably just get her a 32. which will be a bit heavy and cumbersome for her. But you know, that'll do her until she's about 7 or 8. And then for your kids class, depends what age kids you're going to be teaching. But if you want a one size fits most, I'd say it's a 36. 36. It'll be a bit big for the little kids and a bit small for, a 36 is supposed to be for kids aged like 11 and 12, 10 to 12. All right. It depends on the height really, but once they go over 12, then they need to start using a 37 in the matches. All right. That's right. Yeah. 12 to 12. Is it 12, 13, 14? Yeah. 12, 13, 14 is a junior high, isn't it? So, I think that's right. Yeah. That's 37. And then when they're sort of 15, 16, 17, that's a 38. Next one. Hello, Fisher Sensei. I got a couple of cues. I'm hoping to get AD today. Add today. I don't get what that is. Okay. Anyway, right. Sometimes soon I'm getting a brand new hakama on a heavier thread count side, but considering omitting the name embroidery on the hip, thinking it might look very clean, especially for Shinsa. Whilst obviously name embroidery is not required, do you reckon it'd be better if I had my name embroidered on it anyway? It's up to you. If you want it specifically for grading, then you shouldn't have your name embroidered on it. But if you're going to use it all the time and just use it once or twice in the grading, then get your name embroidered on it. But it's up to you. I mean, it's not the end of the world either way, to be honest. Yeah. Next one, at Sandan Shinsa, what things would you say are very bad things to do and what things are almost instant passes? If I had to pick a single thing to relentlessly drill before the Shinsa, what should it be? And then the next one is, when I send my shinai, it sometimes only forms more splinters. Is this a sign time to retire it, or am I using the wrong coarseness? Right. So the Sandan Shinsa, the very bad things to do is not tie your boga properly and not be able to do Reiho properly, and obviously not be able to do strikes that meet the criteria of Yuko Datotsu. Sandan is an indication that you now have understood and somewhat mastered the basics of Kendo and are able to make basic strikes with Kentai no Ichi, i.e. Fumikomi. So that's the main thing you need to be able to do. If you can demonstrate some variety of techniques, maybe a bit of Ojuwaza, stuff like that, that's cool. But the main thing is okay, this person is ready to move on to more advanced Kendo. In terms of the single thing to relentlessly drill before the Shinsa, what should it be? Kirikaishi. Kirikaishi. Kirikaishi fixes everything. When you stand your shinai, it's more splinters. Okay, so there's a couple of things you can do with this. First, try using a lighter grain sandpaper. You can also shave it a little bit. That helps shave it and then sand it. And then wax it, either with a candle, or we sell some beeswax as well, like shinai for shinai. If you put wax on it afterwards, that helps it stop splintering. Okay. Next one, Nito question. I was told that it's illegal to hold either the short or the daito at the tsuba. I was also told that there are no restrictions where one can hold the shinai. Do the rules stipulate a specific way to hold the shinai in Nito? So, if you mean like by the tsuba, so like with the daito, for example, most people hold like this, right? But if you're saying, can you hold it like this? There's no rules that stipulate where on the sky you have to hold it. There's nothing in the rules that say you have to hold it this way. Nothing in the rules about that. Nothing in the rules about it. Whether you're able to make the Yuko Datotsu from that grip, that's another question. But I don't know. That depends on the person. You do have to make sure that when you do Tsubazeriai, though, that the shoto is on the bottom and the daito is on the top. Okay. Next one. Do you have any general advice for improving footwork? I keep injuring my left foot by ripping calluses off it during practice, and it's very painful. There's too much to focus on and it tends to get left out until I'm injured and bleeding. So that's happening mainly because your left foot is turned out to the side. You need to make sure that your toes are pointed pretty much forward, and focus on it. Make sure that's like high up on the priorities of what you're focusing on. But you know, your feet getting ripped up, it's kind of part of the process, isn't it? I think most people go through that stage. It'll get better with time, and practice, and your feet will toughen up. So yeah, it's mainly though, it's your left foot. It's keep your left foot straight. Okay. Looking for advice on hikitate geiko. I'm nidan on the cusp of sandan. Used to be when I went with Q level students, I wouldn't hold back, and that was about the level they needed to be fought at, unless they were brand new in Bogu. But now I've progressed to the point I can get through their kamae easily. Simply dominating them is not helpful for either of us. So long story long, what's the best way to challenge their kendo for my level? See if you can practice Debana waza on them. Limit yourself to what kind of waza you want to practice with them. For example, like I say, try and see if you can just use Debana waza. See if you can just get them to hit you when you want them to hit you. You don't have to focus too much on the sort of hikitate part, because, you know, you still need that. No one's expecting you to do too much. But use them to try and improve your kendo by trying to see if you can get them to attack in the timing you want them to, or when in response to your semi or whatever. See if you can get them to hit, so you can do devana, or you can do orji or whatever. And then, or if they don't respond in that way, then maybe you can do the shikake. But try to have a more sort of methodical approach to the keiko with them, so that you're both actually benefiting from it, and accept that you're going to get hit. You'll get it wrong and they'll hit you, and that's okay. That's okay. And don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It doesn't mean that they're better than you, even if they think it means that. They're okay. It's okay if they're wrong. I meet lots of people like that. Right. Fish Sensei, thanks for all you do. I've got 2 long-winded questions for you. Okay, cool. I'm struggling with door strikes. I'm a bit on the tall side for context. I'm trying to break down the strike in my own practice. It's been helping to reduce the number of misses during practice. But to my question, what's the most fundamental footwork for a door strike I should start with? With Humikomi, with Okuriashi, with Ayumiashi, something else? All right, let's start with that one. So if you're a bit tall, you can bend your knees a little bit as you hit. The very basic version of door is with Humikomi. It's probably easiest to do it with Humikomi. Later, you'll want to start being able to do it with Ayumiashi. But that's a bit more down the road. All right, for now, just do it with Humikomi. Okay. And it's, other than that, it's just practice. Related question. We've been practicing Nukido and Kaishido in the dojo, but I feel like we could do the drill better. All of the strikes on the Kakaide end up being too close. Either the Monoichi or past the door of the Kakaide is striking the front of the door. Is this common? Do we need to change the order of operations of the drill? Currently, the Motodachi strikes for men and the Kakaide attempts Nukido Kaishi. That's it. Would it be better to have the Kakaide seme and or begin moving first to start the drill? Or does the Motodachi need to adjust their distance to accommodate the men even if they start the motion? Having the Motodachi start the drill seems to favour the Motodachi's men strike. I understand that having the Motodachi do too much to favour the Kakaide strike doesn't necessarily reflect the reality of a Jigeko or Shiai. But with the way that things are going right now, the Kakaide isn't getting the best experience out of the drill. Thank you for saying so. Okay. The best situation is, as you say, have the start at the far distance. The way I would practice Ojiwaza, if I was teaching a class, is I would have the Kakaride, start at the far distance, Kakaride steps in and seme. And when they do seme, man, this way. So, man, do, this way. Okay, so that the Kakaide is initiating the interaction. Because that is the idea of how to do Ojiwaza as well. All right, that's the correct way to do it. You don't do it when they attack, you make them attack. However, if I wasn't in charge of running the class and someone else was running the class and they was just said, okay, let's do the Ojiwaza, and then the Motodachi just hits when they feel like it, then the way I would do it, and I can do this because I realize I have the experience to be able to do this. So it's not easy to do this, all right? So I'm not just saying this as if it's something easy to do. I realize that I am in a position where I have the experience and where I can practice this way. But you can work towards that, right? So this Kakaite is going to hit when they feel like it. So we'll go, yeah, like this, and then they'll step forward, and then I'll do semi, and then they hit. Right? So I always do the semi bit anyway. And they know they have to hit, and then just make it happen when I want it to happen, so that I can practice how I want to. But that takes quite a lot of experience to be able to do that. Okay, it's not easy to do that. You have to be able to influence the motodachi, even when they've been told what they have to do. So it's a little bit difficult. I get that. But if that is another way you can practice it if you've got a little bit more experience, all right? It's something you can think about and work towards. Hi, Andy says a quick kind of fiddly question about Nihon Kendo Kata 4. When Shitachi passes back to Waki Gamae, is the back foot in Waki perpendicular to the front foot, parallel, or somewhere in between, or does it even matter? So when you go to Waki Gamae this way, your feet go from your sort of straight chew down to a sort of side on position, because it's like a, what is it? Like it's hanmi, isn't it? So you've basically stood side on and your feet are sort of parallel-ish. It's not written in sort of stone though, so it's sort of what's comfortable. What's important though is that you keep your back heel, your right heel in this case, off the floor, and your weight is sort of, not weight, but your sort of intention is forward, and you don't lean back into the kamae. Okay, so it's a side on stance. You don't want to have it like a T shape. All right. Okay, last one. Here we are. We've blitzed through these. I know I've spoken really fast, by the way, but you know on YouTube there's a little thing where you can set the speed slower. So if I'm speaking too fast for you, which I know is an issue for people who perhaps English isn't their first language, so apologies for that. But there's a lot to get through, and I'm excited. I get excited. So, you know, just slow it down. Go to the thing, and you can set the speed to like 1.5, and I'll probably sound like I'm talking like this, but at least you'll be able to pick up what I'm saying. Okay, hi Sensei. When I watch professional kendo shiai, I saw many kendoka using wider stance where their feet are really further apart. I saw they only fumikomi about 40 centimeters forward, but are really fast. I often saw the back and forth motions with this, but it doesn't every time moving forward telegraph the strike about to come. I saw some even have to move their left foot up to go further to strike, like Tobikomi men. Why don't they just use a close-up stance in the first place? When I tried a long stance, I can fumikomi faster, but really short. I can move further with the close stance, but it's slower. What's the tactic behind the wider stance? I'd like to use both stances. Thank you, Sensei. Okay, it's not a different stance, and they are, right, controversial opinion time. It's not actually a wider stance, all right? It's that, okay, what you're looking at is very advanced kendo shiai, okay? Very advanced kendo shiai. So there's a, I don't want you to worry about it too much, right? Because with experience, you'll start to understand. In principle, your feet should not start too far apart. And those high-level players, their feet, they don't start like that. That isn't their kamae, actually, right? That is, what you are seeing is part of the process of their strike. And it doesn't always work out, so sometimes I have to change plan, all right? So there's a concept called semeashi. So you use your feet to do seme, and that's what they're doing, right? They're here like this, and then they're pushing their right foot forward to sort of impress on the other person to see how they're going to react, all right? See if they're going to come forward, see if they're going to attack, see if they're going to defend this way, and in response, then they're going to hit. They've already begun the process of their attack, all right? So that's why their feet are starting to get wide. And if it doesn't work, the left foot comes up, right? And they start again, all right? So they're not actually using a wider stance. They're using a shorter stance, but the process of their strike is a little bit different because they're using their footwork to do seme, all right? And then, yeah, they do a shorter fumikomi, especially when the other person comes forward, because they don't need to jump forward because the other person jumps forward. So, but that's quite high level shiai, okay? It's different to lower level shiai where people just sort of jump at each other from the kamae, which is normal process, right? So I don't want you to worry about it too much or imitate it all that much at the moment. an understanding of it will definitely come with experience, especially if you start to join Shiai and do matches. You'll start to understand how using that can influence your opponent, but it isn't a way you want to spend a lot of time in. So you'll see that those high level players, they're very transient in whether they are using that technique or back to kamae or what have you. All right, so that's a very important aspect of that. Okay, so it's not just that they're stood in a wide stance. So yeah, don't just copy it. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. All right, I promise you. Okay, hope that makes sense. And there we go. We're right at the end. So we got through them. There was loads of questions. Thank you very much for joining me today. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment. What a great Kendo video, words to that effect, so we can grow the Kendo population probably. And shop at KendoStar. Best equipment website in the history of mankind. See you next week, folks. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.